Welcome to G-UDRT Demystified, a short series of videos introducing common RT as required by UK student pilots. In this episode we look at the typical calls associated with a request to transit controlled airspace. To help explore this topic, we will plan a short flight. We will depart the small grass strip at Bumpy Field in the west and fly to the airfield at Little Town on the east coast. From a quick glance at the chart, it appears we can route directly from Bumpy Field to Little Town, tracking southwest of Big Town Airport. However, checking again, we see that Big Town International is surrounded by controlled airspace. As pilots, we have to understand that we must not enter controlled airspace without having received and read back a clearance to do so. An option is to route around any controlled airspace. This has some risks, such as a greater possibility of an infringement. So instead, let's review the RT to undertake a transit. The calls are very straightforward and the controller on duty will assist however they can. We will request a transit in our initial call to Big Town Radar. As such, we will request not only a transit, but also a suitable service for whilst we are outside of controlled airspace. We'll pass our flight details when requested and read back the provision of a squawk code and QNH. Once that is done, we'll progress with the transit as cleared by the controller. The request for a zone transit is typically made at about 10 miles from the zone boundary. As this is our first call to the ground station, we will also request a suitable service. We can therefore expect to be invited to pass your message. Note that the exact order and grouping of calls may vary as different ground stations have different practices.
Big Town Radar, Golf Uniform Delta Romeo Tango, request basic service and zone transit.
Golf Uniform Delta Romeo Tango, Big Town Radar, pass your message.
We've been asked to pass the details of our flight. To remember what to pass in the correct sequence, use the acronym ADPAR. A. The aircraft call sign and type. D. Your departure aerodrome. Another D. Your destination. P. Your current position. A. Your altitude and pressure setting. And finally, R. Here you state your request or intentions or other information as appropriate. Note, include your flight rules in the transit request here.
Golf Uniform Delta Romeo Tango, PA38, from Bumpy Field to Little Town, 4 miles northwest the stadium, altitude 2,000 feet, QNH 1016, request basic service and VFR zone transit.
Typically the controller will identify the aircraft and establish a service outside of controlled airspace. Note: controllers aim not to give too many instructions or too much information in any one transmission. However, the controller may combine these calls with the clearance call, so be ready to write it down and read it back.
Golf Romeo Tango. Squawk 7035. Big Town QNH 1015.
Squawk 7035, Big Town QNH 1015, Golf Romeo Tango.
Golf Romeo Tango, identified, basic service.
Basic service, Golf Romeo Tango.
Whilst the pilot is now in receipt of a service, they have not been cleared to enter controlled airspace, so must remain outside. When given, the clearance will be similar to the following example and must be read back.
Golf Uniform Delta Romeo Tango. Cleared to transit the Big Town Zone. VFR. Not above altitude 2,000 feet. Route west of the 05 threshold.
Cleared to transit the Big Town Zone, VFR, not above altitude 2,000 feet, route west of the 05 threshold, Golf Uniform Delta Romeo Tango.
The pilot can now transit the airspace. In the absence of a specific route instruction, the pilot is free to take their own navigation within the limitations given. As they enter the controlled airspace, the pilot will be informed of a change to a radar control service and will be returned to the previous service, which in this case was a basic service as they depart.
Golf Romeo Tango, Entering the big town zone, radar control.
Radar control, Golf Romeo Tango.
Golf Romeo Tango, leaving the big town zone, basic service.
Basic service, Golf Romeo Tango.
With the pilot departing the controlled airspace, the transit is complete. Want to learn more? The G-UDRT app looks at airspace transits in much more detail. In fact, G-UDRT contains 58 sessions. These cover everything from the very basics of RT right through to long dynamically branching practice flights. You can download the app from your device's app store, or visit our website www.g-udrt.co.uk.